I'm going to tell you something that most people won't want to hear, but the truth is uncomfortable, and discomfort is the price of clarity. If most of your wealth is sitting in a bank account, waiting for the perfect moment to invest, you think you're being smart, you think you're responsible, you think you're playing it safe. You're not. In fact, you're choosing a guaranteed loss, and I can show it to you with arithmetic so simple that a teenager could understand it. Yet very intelligent people constantly overlook it. Here's the reality. If inflation runs at 3%, that's not risk, that is a mathematical certainty. Over 10 years, that adds up to roughly 25% of your money's real-world value disappearing. Not what your bank statement says, not the nominal amount you see, but what you can actually buy. And here's the insidious part. Most people don't even notice it happening. The numbers in your account stay the same, maybe even grow slightly. You feel secure. You feel safe. You feel like you're doing the right thing, but you're watching the wrong number. Humans are psychologically flawed in predictable ways. We measure what's easy to measure rather than what actually matters. We celebrate the fact that our bank balance appears unchanged while ignoring that our real purchasing power is evaporating. It's like admiring a fuel gauge that works perfectly while your tank is slowly emptying. The instrument functions fine, but you'll still end up stranded. And I know what you're thinking. Daniel, cash feels safe. I can see it. It doesn't fluctuate like the stock market. It won't disappear overnight. That feeling, the comfort of visible stability, is your enemy. It is quietly destroying your wealth. We humans suffer from what I call deprival superreaction tendency. We hate losing what we already have far more than we enjoy gaining something new. That instinct kept our ancestors alive in harsh, unpredictable environments. Today, it's financially lethal. We fear temporary declines in stocks and other productive assets, even though historically they recover, and yet we accept a guaranteed, silent loss through inflation. We choose certain decay over uncertain growth. That is not rational. That is expensive fare. Let me give you a mental model that has saved me from countless mistakes over nearly a century. Always invert. Think backwards. Instead of asking, "What should I buy?" ask, "What am I absolutely certain to lose if I do nothing?" When you invert the question, the answer is glaringly obvious. Holding significant cash in an inflationary environment is voluntarily choosing certain loss over uncertain, but historically probable, gain. Consider this. I've studied physics extensively, not just finance. There's a concept called entropy. Everything naturally moves from order to disorder unless energy is applied to maintain it. Cash is no different. Its purchasing power decays naturally, steadily, relentlessly, unless you actively do something to counter it. Compound interest is a double-edged sword. You've heard Einstein call it the eighth wonder of the world. But what he didn't say is that reverse compounding works just as powerfully against you. If inflation compounds at 3% annually and your returns are effectively zero, you are watching your money erode slowly, year by year, almost imperceptibly. But over decades, the loss is devastating. Here's a truth that you understand. Volatility is not risk. Volatility is just movement. True risk is permanent loss of purchasing power. A diversified stock portfolio may drop 15% in a tough year. That is temporary. You will recover. Cash, on the other hand, loses 3% of real value every year, guaranteed. That loss is permanent. Once purchasing power is gone, it never returns. Warren Buffett and I didn't build Berkshire Hathaway by hoarding cash. We invested in productive assets, businesses that generate real earnings, that have pricing power, that adapt to change. Take See's Candies, which we acquired in 1972. People said we overpaid. Traditional metrics suggested foolishness. But See's had pricing power. When costs rose, the company could raise prices. Inflation didn't destroy it. Cash sitting in a bank account cannot adapt. It simply rots in slow motion, waiting for you to act. Let's talk about 5 asset types that are genuinely safer than cash in the only way that actually matters: preserving and growing real purchasing power. 1. Ownership in productive businesses. Most people call these stocks, but they are actually partial ownership in real operating companies. Well-managed businesses with genuine pricing power naturally adjust for inflation. Take Coca-Cola, which we hold substantial shares in. When costs rise, they raise prices. Their earnings grow. Your ownership grows. This is fundamentally different from cash. Most stocks are overpriced, and most investors sabotage themselves with poor timing and fees. But owning exceptional businesses with modest capital needs, strong brands, and real pricing power is an entirely different approach. 2. Productive real estate. Not speculation, but real income-generating property. Rental properties that produce monthly cash flow adjust naturally for inflation, while fixed-rate debt becomes cheaper over time. Real estate can appreciate as construction costs rise, but again, competence matters. Being a landlord requires judgment, maintenance, and tenant management. Buy property you understand, producing real economic value, or it's just speculation. 3. Yourself. Your skills, your earning power, your ability to create value. This is the most underutilized asset by far. Investing in education, professional growth, or entrepreneurial ventures can multiply your earning potential far more than idle cash. The returns are intangible but real, protected from market crashes, and compounding over your lifetime. Focus on solving expensive problems, acquiring skills that are rare, valuable, and in demand. 4. Carefully chosen bonds in specific circumstances. Bonds are fundamentally promises to pay money in the future. But the question is, what will that money be worth? Long-term bonds barely keep pace with inflation and lock you in. Only short-term, credit-worthy issuers provide genuine optionality. Bonds are temporary parking spots for cash, not destinations. 5. Useful hard assets. Assets that produce real utility. Farmland that grows food, machinery that generates income, vehicles that enable work, are genuinely productive. Gold and other speculative hard assets generate nothing. A massive cube of gold produces nothing, while the same capital in productive assets generates real earnings. Function over hope. Always. The common thread across all 5 is this: they do something real. They actively preserve or grow purchasing power. Cash does nothing but decay. 3 to 6 months of cash is enough for emergencies. The rest should work for you in productive assets, in yourself, and in ways that increase real wealth. Intelligent people make these mistakes because human psychology is predictable. Social proof makes you copy others without thinking. Availability bias makes dramatic but temporary losses feel scarier than invisible, certain losses. Deprival superreaction tendency makes you cling to cash, sacrificing decades of wealth for the illusion of safety. The solution isn't to eliminate these tendencies. You can't. But to recognize them and build systematic safeguards. I've followed these principles my entire life. I decided rationally what percentage of assets to hold in each category. I stick to it. I rebalance when necessary. I don't react daily to market movements. Boring rationality beats excitement almost every time. The tortoise beats the hare because it moves steadily in the right direction, not because it sprints wildly. Ask yourself, what is your genuine circle of competence? What is your real risk? What is your honest time horizon? What are the second-order consequences of holding cash? Invert your thinking. If I hold cash for 20 years, can I accept the outcome? If not, act today. Write down your answers. Clarity emerges instantly. The reason most people stay financially mediocre isn't lack of opportunity, it's lack of rationality. Emotional decisions, following crowds blindly, ignoring simple arithmetic. You can't think yourself wealthy with affirmations or secret tricks, but you can avoid poverty by thinking rationally, acting patiently, and consistently avoiding stupidity. I'm Daniel Ruth. I'm 98 years old. I've watched generations make the same mistakes over and over. The antidote is awareness, systematic processes, and patience. Invest in real productive assets. Build skills. Avoid guaranteed losses. Let compound interest and time work for you. That's how you win financially. It's boring, it's simple, and it works. The mathematics are undeniable. The choice is yours. Now that we've established why cash is a silent killer of wealth, let's talk about what to do instead, and how to think about money in a way that protects your future while taking advantage of compounding opportunities. The first principle I want you to understand is opportunity cost. Every dollar sitting idle in a savings account, earning 0.5%, is a dollar not growing in productive assets. Over decades, this difference is astronomical. Let me illustrate. If you leave $100,000 in cash for 30 years, earning 0.5% annually, you'll have about $116,000 in nominal terms. Adjust for 3% annual inflation, and your money is worth roughly $48,000 today. In other words, more than half your wealth has evaporated, quietly, without anyone noticing. Compare that with investing the same $100,000 in a simple diversified portfolio averaging 10% annual returns. After 30 years, that grows to roughly $1.7 million nominally, and about $700,000 in today's dollars. That's the real power of compounding, and the real cost of complacency. Here's a second crucial principle. Time horizon matters enormously. If you need money in 6 months, yes, keep it in cash. That's sensible. But if you don't need it for a decade, why would you lock it away in an asset guaranteed to lose value over time? People confuse short-term comfort with long-term security. The mathematics are simple, but the psychology is counterintuitive. Humans are wired to fear immediate loss far more than they value long-term gain. We call it deprival superreaction tendency, and it's extremely costly if ignored. Third, understand productivity over speculation. I cannot emphasize this enough. Owning productive businesses, real estate that generates cash flow, or investing in yourself, these are the engines that fight inflation naturally. Speculative assets, gold, cryptocurrencies, collectibles, offer nothing but hope that someone else will pay more later. That is not investing. That is gambling. The moment you invest in something that does nothing productive, you're relying entirely on luck, and luck is not a strategy. Let's dive deeper into the first productive aspect, ownership in real businesses. Many people confuse buying stocks with investing. But a stock is not a gamble ticket. It's a claim on an operating company. A company that produces goods or services, employs people, and generates cash flows. And the magic happens when that company has pricing power, meaning it can raise prices when costs rise without losing customers. Think Coca-Cola, Apple, or other businesses with strong brands. Inflation is neutralized naturally. Your ownership grows because the business grows. Contrast that with cash, which erodes relentlessly. Next, real estate. But not just any property. I mean real, income-generating real estate. Rentals, commercial properties, or land that produces tangible value. Rents generally rise with inflation. If you have a fixed-rate mortgage, your payments become effectively cheaper over time. This creates a built-in hedge against inflation. The trap is in thinking that simply owning land or houses is sufficient. You must understand management, location, and long-term economic trends. Poorly chosen property is worse than cash. It ties up capital and may generate negative real returns. The third asset is perhaps the most overlooked: investing in yourself. Your skills, your earning potential, your ability to solve valuable problems. These are assets that nobody can take from you. Unlike stocks or real estate, your knowledge compounds. Every improvement in skill increases your lifetime earning potential, sometimes dramatically. And unlike speculative assets, these skills remain yours even in market crashes. The key is focus. Develop skills that solve real, valuable problems for people willing to pay for solutions. Obscure hobbies or nice-to-have knowledge rarely yields meaningful returns. Learn things that directly impact earning capacity or productivity. Fourth, carefully selected high-quality bonds. Let me be clear, I do not mean locking your money in long-term government bonds yielding below inflation. That is just slow decay with a promise. Bonds are useful as temporary parking spots for liquidity. Money you may need to deploy quickly into opportunities, but they are not a wealth-building tool on their own. High-quality short-term bonds from creditworthy issuers can serve as optionality, giving you flexibility while providing a small buffer above cash returns. Treat them as temporary storage, not a foundation. Fifth, useful hard assets. These are tangible things that produce real value. Productive farmland, machinery that generates income, or equipment that enables work. These assets maintain utility and purchasing power because they do something real. Contrast this with speculative gold or collectibles. Gold sits there. Machinery works. Farmland produces. Function over hope is the only rule that matters for physical assets. Now, let's connect the dots. What do all 5 of these asset types have in common? They are active. They do something real. Businesses produce goods, real estate produces cash flows, skills produce value, bonds provide optionality, and productive hard assets provide utility. Cash does nothing but decay. It's passive. It loses value quietly while you sleep. And most people don't even realize the damage until it's too late. This brings me to the psychology of investing. The reason intelligent people often fail financially isn't stupidity. It's predictable cognitive biases. Social proof makes you mimic what everyone else is doing. Availability bias makes dramatic market crashes feel scarier than slow, invisible erosion. Deprival, super-reaction tendency makes you cling to what you already have, even when mathematically it's a mistake. Recognize these biases. Name them, and build systematic processes to protect yourself. Emotion cannot be removed. It's human. But rational guardrails can save fortunes. Here's a practical framework. Identify your circle of competence. Only invest in what you understand deeply. If you know businesses, stocks may dominate your portfolio. If you understand real estate, focus there. If neither, Diversify passively while improving your earning skills. Assess real risk, not perceived risk. True risk is permanent loss of purchasing power. Temporary volatility is irrelevant if you have time to recover. Define your honest time horizon. Money needed soon should remain liquid. Money you don't need for 10+ years should fight inflation and grow. Consider second-order consequences. Holding cash may feel safe, but it may mean working longer, retiring later, or having fewer options in life. Invert your thinking. Ask, if I hold mostly cash for 20 years, what's the probable outcome? Can I accept it? If not, adjust today. Daniel Ruth, age 98, has spent nearly a century observing human financial behavior. The patterns repeat across generations. Wealth doesn't come from secret tricks, clever timing, or luck. It comes from rationality, patience, and avoiding predictable mistakes consistently. People who chase trends, panic during downturns, or trade frantically rarely prosper. Those who think clearly, invest in productive assets, and let compounding work quietly. Those are the ones who succeed. Let me leave you with this final mental model. The power of disciplined allocation. Keep only 3 to 6 months of expenses in cash for emergencies. The rest should be invested in productive assets, your skills, and opportunities that maintain or grow real purchasing power. Avoid speculation masquerading as investing. Avoid emotional decisions. Avoid herd behavior. Focus on what you can control. And most importantly, understand the difference between temporary fear and permanent loss. The mathematics are undeniable. $1 lost in purchasing power is gone forever. A temporary drop in the market is recoverable. Choosing safety in the wrong form is far costlier than embracing calculated, rational risk. The choice is yours. Make it consciously. Make it rationally. And you will secure your financial future, no matter the economy, the markets, or the whims of chance. The reason most people stay financially mediocre isn't lack of opportunity. It's lack of rationality. Emotional decisions, following crowds blindly, ignoring simple arithmetic. You can't think yourself wealthy with affirmations or secret tricks, but you can avoid poverty by thinking rationally, acting patiently, and consistently avoiding stupidity. I'm Daniel Ruth. I'm 98 years old. I've watched generations make the same mistakes over and over. The antidote is awareness, systematic processes, and patience. Invest in real productive assets. Build skills. Avoid guaranteed losses. Let compound interest and time work for you. That's how you win financially. It's boring, it's simple, and it works. The mathematics are undeniable. The choice is yours.